will ban all fracking.
Will you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking your first day in office?
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
That will immediately put tens of thousands of Pennsylvanians out of work and send utility bills skyrocketing.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
Trump will protect clean energy fracking and protect the jobs it creates.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
Well, Madam Vice President, I don't have to tell you how important natural gas is to this region. It's how we heat our homes and our factories in this region. It's very plentiful and cheaper than oil. And we extract natural gas through fracking. So I wanted to ask you, there's a political ad on TV from a 2019 Climate Hall town meeting that you had, in which you basically said, quote, "There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking," unquote. The ad claims that if you're elected president, you will ban fracking and you will cost Pennsylvania over 300,000 jobs. Have you changed your view on fracking? And if so, why?
So let me start by saying that that ad, as you described it, is absolutely a mischaracterization that I think is intended to make people afraid of my presidency. Let me be absolutely clear, as I've been when I said it back in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I did not as vice president. In fact, I cast the tie-breaking vote to open up more fracking leases. And my perspective on this is grounded in a number of things, including that we don't have to ban fracking to do the work that we can do to also invest in a clean energy economy. So that's where I stand, period. As President of the United States, I will not ban fracking. I did not as Vice President of the United States. And frankly, I think some of those ads are misleading intentionally to suggest to folks that they should be afraid, because on the other side, what you've got in my opponent is somebody who could and has not really done much about lifting up the middle class. My perspective on this issue is that I'm going to bring jobs back to rural communities. I'm going to make sure that we invest in those communities that have done the kind of work that you have in mind when we talk about Pittsburgh, when we talk about the greater aspect of Pennsylvania. And I'm going to keep.
So once again, we see it here, folks. As plain as day, in full color, black and white, no gray area, no shading. But once again, what does Kamala do? Misconstrued. That's not what I said. Taken out of context. Completely false, completely fabricated. And that's what people do these days. It doesn't matter if you get them on tape. They just slough it off. What is it? AI? It was AI generated? Is that the new excuse that's going to be going into the future? I mean, he asked a question right then and there, in your own words. But no, that's not what I'm going to do. The question should have been after that. Well, if you're telling us that now, Madam Vice President, what was it that brought you to the conclusion to change your position from where it was in 2019, where you definitely did say that because we heard it? So what made you change your mind that you're saying now, absolutely not, I will not ban fracking when I'm president, if I become president of the United States? Didn't hear that question. She says, well, I want to help towns in Pennsylvania. I want to help the business owners. I want to create more jobs, more housing. We've got to give more support. Well, what kind of jobs are you talking about? Are they going to be in the tech sector, mining, natural gas, oil production, fossil fuels, solar, wind, nuclear? What type of jobs are we talking about for Pennsylvania? And then when you're talking about giving us help, what kind of help are you actually talking about? Grants? infrastructure relief? Where are all? That's all we want to know. This, folks, again, it just goes to show you she's not prepared. And I don't think it's just not preparation. I think she also has a fundamental issue within herself, saying, how am I going to talk about my policies in a completely 180-degree turnaround compared to what I was 3 or 4 years ago? She hasn't thought them through. And the reason that I don't think, because she still believes them. These are just absolute lies. The same thing with the taxes on tips. Wasn't she the one that did she was the final vote that broke the vote that a bill went through? I can't remember the name of the bill right now. Or maybe it was part of the Inflation Reduction Act or whatever. I don't know if it was a part of that. But saying that to go after people with tips, the IRS needs to go after people that have jobs, that the majority of their pay comes from tips, and yet she goes into Nevada and steals a platform from President Trump, no taxes on tips. I mean, that's where, when you ask her these questions, it just goes off on these tangents, because she knows that she still has the same views as before. She just can't she just talk about them now, because I mean it would just be political suicide. So as long as she can hide, slide away, not answer the questions, dance around the edges, do the old rope-a-dope in the ring, play defensive, don't go on offense, it's going to be okay. And if that doesn't make matters worse, folks, I want to show you an upcoming clip, which is from that town hall meeting, where she basically, in her own words, says exactly the opposite of what she's telling this reporter. Check this out.
For banning fracking. So, yeah, and starting with what we can do on day one around public lands, right? And then there has to be legislation. But yes, and this is something I've taken on in California. I have a history of working on this issue. And to your point, we have to just acknowledge that the residual impact.
So as you can see here, folks, I mean, this is not something that, in my first 100 days or first 6 months or within the first year, we'll have some committees set up. We'll do some formulations. We'll get an idea as to which direction we're going to go into. No, it says the question is, will you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking on your first day in office? And her answer is absolutely yes. And not only that, I fought this in California. We did this over there. And then she comes out, and you heard her. That's not me. I never said anything like that. President Trump misrepresenting what I said, fear-mongering. The president hasn't done anything to create jobs. He hasn't done anything to help the working class. He hasn't raised wages, all of which are untrue statements. Every single one of those things exactly opposite of what what Kamala Harris is saying. She's the one that's utilizing, mistruths, fake stories, fake data. That's what she's doing. Anyways, let's continue.
Is enormous in terms of the impact on the health and safety of communities. Yeah. So
that was quite clear. So she ended her 2020 presidential run in December 2019. The only debate she participated in 2020 was the general election debate with then Vice President Mike Pence. And I went over the transcript of that debate tonight. Nowhere in there does she make clear that she had abandoned her previous support for a fracking ban. Rather, she repeated that Joe Biden, the head of the Democratic ticket at the time, would himself not ban fracking. So listen to what she actually said in that 2020 debate.
Before we get to that, folks, CNN sometimes, they really do surprise me. I mean, are they trying to, it seems like they're trying to maybe reinvent themselves, but then they sort of do things like this where you would never expect CNN to put something in here, or Abby Phillips, or this gentleman who does the fact checking a lot. Because a lot of times when you see this person doing the fact checking, he's always fact checking the conservatives. He's fact checking Republicans, obviously Donald Trump and JD Vance, and goes after them. And if he does do some fact checking on the Democrats, it would be like he picks one or two really tiny little things that says, oh yeah, they were whatever, but he goes hard for the Republicans. So when I see him and them do a piece like this, I scratch my head and I go, I thank you, CNN, thank you for putting stuff out this. At least some people are going to see this. But it's just, I'm grateful that they're doing this. But where were they in 2016? Where were they like this in 2020 when they're, coming out? Anyways, let's continue and see what this gentleman has to say about Kamala Harris and what she actually did say or did not say about the fracking incident.
Joe Biden will not end fracking. He has been very clear about that. I will repeat, and the American people know, that Joe Biden will not ban fracking.
So it makes perfect sense that at the time she was speaking on behalf of Biden, the president, not the vice president, sets administration policy. But maybe other people feel differently. I certainly did not hear anywhere in there Kamala Harris saying that she personally had abandoned her previously expressed 2019 view.
So you've got CNN fact-checking Kamala Harris, finding out that, she's not telling the truth at all. Or at the very least, she's basically saying Joe Biden won't end fracking. She never herself utters those words, from her own lips in terms of putting her mouth on those wordings. No, she's speaking for Joe Biden and the administration, at the time. Now, when I told you about how CNN has this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde or whatever, where they completely go after Donald Trump and whatever he says, and they hardly go after, Biden or Kamala Harris or any of the Democratic surrogates. Vivek comes on and is on with, I don't know what her name is, and he points this thing out. And all you have to do, folks, is listen to what Vivek is saying and how he makes and he prosecutes the case for everything that he's saying is true. But just watch the face of the CNN analyst, the CNN pundit. You can see it right now. She's not too happy. And watch how it changes, and especially towards the end, where she sort of gives a, and gives a flip of the hair, okay, folks? I mean, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde of politics. That's exactly what CNN is. So listen to this.
Proponents of that ban, so much so that when she was in California, she sued the Obama administration over granting fracking permits. She didn't just favor the abolition of private health insurance. She was a co-sponsor of the bill with Bernie Sanders as a U.S. Senator for Medicare for All for Americans. The reality is, when you think about the Green New Deal, she was the chief proponent, not just as a co-sponsor of the legislation, but going further and saying she would end the filibuster in the Senate to ram that through. So the reality is she can say what she wants to say now. Those are actions she has taken. Is someone allowed to evolve? Of course they are. But she deserves to explain exactly why she's changed those positions, exactly what her position is. If it's not a ban on fracking, what exactly is it? What exactly is her healthcare plan if
That's
she no
so
longer
true.
favors abolishing private
You can
health
see her.
insurance,
See,
which just 4 short years
she's
ago
getting
when she ran
antsy
for
right
president,
now.
she did. And that's the kind of scrutiny that's been missing. I think Donald Trump has received plenty of scrutiny, and I give credit to him for sitting for hostile interviews that Kamala Harris.
So there you can see it in the eyes, if you noticed it, right towards the very end, she was getting really antsy. She wanted to get up there and she wanted to say something, all right? She wanted to contradict what Vivek was saying or bring her own narrative into it. Vivek wouldn't have anything to do with it. Now, I want to go back to that interview from, I believe, that reporter in Pittsburgh, as he goes ahead and asks Kamala another question. Listen, this is how a professional, and I use that term very lightly, folks, professional, they've made this into an art, folks. They've made this into an absolute art of how to do a non-answer to a question. If you want to know how to do the non-answer to a question, all you have to do is look at a bunch of interviews that Kamala Harris does. So take a look at this and you tell me if this is an answer to the question or a complete non-answer. Watch this.
Quick questions, Madam Vice President. Former President Trump says that you've had 4 years as vice president to do all the things you've promised in the
Look
campaign.
at her face. Look at her face.
But haven't done it. Is he right, or did President Biden not give you or limit it in some way your role as vice president?
So let's start with this.
I'm from a small town,
I think that the former
Midwestern girl.
is really becoming quite desperate, and is really been offering a lot of misstatements and misinformation. And perhaps it's because he wants to distract from the fact that he has offered no plan for the American people. I have talked about this before. I invite you to go to his rallies, and what you'll hear about full time is him talking about himself and his personal grievances. But what you won't hear him talking about is you and the needs that you have as a working person, as a family person. My plan is about building an opportunity.
That's all Donald Trump ever freaking talks about. What do you say? That's all he talks about. What he's going to do for the middle class, what he's going to do for the forgotten man and woman, what he's going to do for the United States of America, what is he going to do for energy policies, what is he going to do for security, what is he going to do for inflation, what is he going to do for every aspect of American life, whatever is there. That's all he's ever talking about. And for you to say that you go there to the rallies and all Trump talks about is himself is just so unbelievably effing rich, lady. It is so unbelievably effing rich.
Opportunity economy, where I'm going to give first-time home buyers a $25,000 down payment assistance so they can get their foot in the door to be able.
Which is going to raise the cost of the price of the home $25,000 plus, Madam Vice President. And I use that word very, very loosely. That is such an idiotic proposal that it borders on being totally economically retarded. You're going to give $25,000 first time credit. I want to sell my house. My house just went up $50,000. $50,000. Because you know what? I want to take the 25 that you're giving and I want to get 25 for me. I want double. I just want 25,000. I want 50. That's what's going to happen. That's economic retardedness in terms of a housing policy.
Able to be a homeowner. My plan is about $6,000 tax deduction for middle-class families for the first year of their child's life to help them buy a crib or a car seat. My plan is about getting a $50,000 tax deduction to start up businesses to our small.
And that tax deduction is not going to be at the beginning. You're going to take it afterwards. So if somebody wants to start a small business and needs that money, where is he going to get that first? Are you saying that that $50,000 is going to be upfront? Because if it is, to help start up a business, that's going to help start up costs. But it's not. It's not it's not upfront. It's taken off the back. And on the next year's taxes, you get to take that off. Right? Of course it is.
Small businesses, knowing that they are part of the backbone of America's economy. Those are my plans. And I think that, unfortunately, what we've got on the other side is someone who wants to distract from the fact that his plan is about giving billionaires and big corporations a tax break.
There
like
we
he did
go
the last
again.
time, and doing that again.
But you would acknowledge that as vice president, you can't do the things that you can do as president.
Well, absolutely. There's only one president of the United States. But I have been very excited to spend time in Pittsburgh and in Pennsylvania. I was just in Pittsburgh actually talking about my economic plan, and
Which is
but
basically
to spend time in
bullshit.
Pittsburgh and in the rest of the state, talking with folks about what I intend to do as president, and I
No,
am
you're
so
not.
honored and humbled to have received a lot of the support from the folks in that beautiful city of Pittsburgh and around the state, because I believe that what I'm talking about in terms of lifting up American workers and American families is.
So your typical non-answer with a heaping helping spoonful, a couple spoonfuls of lies thrown in. I mean, this is exactly the picture. It was, what? Duh? I mean, this is a picture that needs to be captured and put out there. Because I'm telling you what, the verbal diarrhea was flowing. The tractor and trailers, those John Deere rigs, with the big bucket to scoop out those tons and tons of dirt and manure. Oh my goodness, how many John Deeres are needed when Kamala Harris and then her running partner, you talking about misspeaking and being a freaking knucklehead, and the whoppers and the lies and the whoppers of lies that the vice president, Tim AWOL Walls, talks about. I don't think that John Deere has something that can shovel that kind of shit. Not that kind of political shit, I don't think so. Anyways, folks, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasser Shake Show. I've been your host. My name is Dr. Nasser. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel, like, share, and follow. You all know what to do. Take a look at our links here and here, I believe. My final thought, as always, before that, put your comments, share down below. What'd you think of Miss Kamala Harris and her non-answers? But my final thought, as always, when you're right, you're right, and when you're left, you're wrong. Until next time, America, take care and stay safe.